My name is Tricia Dean, and this is me. I found a small lump in my right breast in 2014. I was 33 years old. I guess I was in denial or just didn't want to face the possibilities that came with finding the lump, so I ignored it for almost a year. I was living in East Tennessee, and by early fall of 2015, that lump had grown into a golf ball-sized lump. I had just started working at a veterinary hospital, and I didn't yet have medical insurance. It took me nearly 2 months to get a referral for a mammogram. I had my mammogram, and when I finally received my results, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. My medical team wanted me to have a double mastectomy, followed by 5 months of weekly chemo and 10 years of tamoxifen. After receiving my diagnosis, my best friend passed away from a rare genetic disease. I hit an all-time low. I suffered from insomnia, sleep deprivation, panic, paranoia, fear, extreme anxiety, and depression. I couldn't sleep from fear that I would die while sleeping. I felt as though I had just been handed a death sentence. The thought of death and dying consumed me. But most of all, I was afraid I had missed my opportunity to be a mom. I started chemo in 2016, 3 months after my original diagnosis. From there, it was one bad medical experience after the other. The chemotherapy treatments and the side effects only intensified the already low state of mind I was in. I was able to find distraction and happiness in spending time with my family. My younger cousin had just had a baby girl named Janiyah. As my cousin was struggling with her own personal problems, I began to spend more and more time with this bundle of joy. Before I realized it, Janiyah had become the center of my life. By the time she was 8 months old, she was living with me full-time and barely ever saw her birth parents. We were living with little to no income outside of the money I earned pet sitting and housekeeping. And this was not enough to afford rent or a car payment. Shortly after, my car was repossessed. Sometimes I had to walk to chemo treatments with Janiyah in tow. I can remember taking her with me in the carrier, where she would stay with the receptionist until I was finished with treatments. For 5 months, the nurses and the reception staff watched over her while I received infusions. I also remember strapping her into the car seat while hung over the toilet seat sick from chemo. Through it all, she was by my side, but we went through it all together and almost completely alone. My mom and sister were 6 hours away in North Carolina, and they came when they could. When Janiyah was 2, her parents decided they wanted her back. I had no legal right to say no, so I had to let her go. Then a family member invited me to attend a church service. Pastor James Davis said 2 things that Sunday that resonated with me deeply. The first was Matthew 6:34. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own troubles. And then he said, God sees you as a new creation, and you must see yourself as he sees you, a winner, mighty, worthy, and loved. It was time to get up and fight. Almost a year to the day, Janiyah came back to me. I immediately went into a custody battle while dealing with a second failed reconstruction, this time leaving me with only one breast and a second severe staph infection. I was determined to stay strong. I could hear my grandfather say, and reminding me, I was a giant who came from a giant who came from a giant. The only thing that could stop me from anything was myself. At that point, I was granted full guardianship of Janiyah. Before leaving Tennessee, I found another lump in my right breast. Numerous times I talked to my surgical oncologist, and she said it was nothing, only scar tissue, and not to worry. But I was worried. At the same time, my father died. At that point, I decided it was time to go home. I was headed back to North Carolina. After 2 failed surgeries, I just wanted to be normal again. I had gone almost a year with only having one breast due to the failed reconstruction. But before this could happen, my new medical team at UNC wanted a closer look at the scar tissue, and I thank God they did. 4 years after my original diagnosis, I received a second diagnosis. This time, I would do 15 weeks of chemo, 6.5 weeks of daily radiation, and I wouldn't be alone. I wouldn't be afraid. My way was already paved, and that's when Miss Stephanie and one of us showed up in our lives. She asked how they could help. She assured me that I wasn't alone and I wasn't going to be alone. One of us helped pay bills. They helped us with security deposits when we finally found a place of our own. They helped us with gas cards, pre-cooked meals. But aside from financial assistance, and most importantly, is the emotional support I received from one of us. I've had moments of sadness and struggle, and every time I found myself beginning to spiral down, the One of Us team has been right there to guide me back. If I needed someone to hold my hand, there they were. I found myself overwhelmed, taking on too much with pet sitting, dog walking to make ends meet. Online school and homework with a kindergartner was going to put me over the edge. Even making meals was like climbing mountains while taking weekly chemo and radiation. There was an instant where I had reached a breaking point, and Miss Stephanie reminded me that needing help isn't a weakness and taking help isn't a crutch. It's okay to need help, and that's exactly what One of Us did for me and Janiyah. I had forgotten that it takes a village, and the support I needed was right there. All I had to do was reach out and accept the love. I'm forever grateful for the love and the emotional support and financial assistance and guidance that I received through One of Us. Thank you for allowing me to share my story. Without One of Us, my story would have been very different and possibly with a very different outcome. Thank you for helping our story continue. Thank you for One of Us. This is me.